Hi everyone, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East Update. It's the week of January 21st. Let me encourage you to grab the PDF PowerPoint from either this YouTube site, there should be a link, or go to our webpage at holygroundexplorations.com. So, what is going on? That's $1 million question, right? So let's start with Omicron. Can't get away from Omicron. If we're going to talk Middle East, we can't get away from Omicron. We can't get away from Iran. We can't get away from two-state solution, Biden, etc., etc. So let's just make our way. Okay, Omicron. This is from Israel. Vaxxed kids that have been vaccinated in Israel, half of them are likely to get the virus. Half of all the vaccinated kids in Israel will get the virus. But as information is being disseminated, protection from the vaccination wanes. Basically, they're saying now that the vaccinations are of no help for Omicron. Educational Minister Yafat Shoshana calls on his government to cancel its quarantine guidelines for school children that have confined thousands of kids and their parents to their homes. Also, Benny Gantz, Defense Minister, FYI, is in quarantine after contracting COVID, Omicron. In the UK, ministers call for the return of some kind of degree of normalcy. Can I get an amen? Saying that the time has come to treat this so-called pandemic more as an endemic. So, Omicron, we have a couple more things on that in Israel. Israel is reopening. We're excited about that, and I'll give you the details here in a moment. This, I think, is a pretty frightening headline. Biden says that the Iran nuclear talks are advancing, and it's not time to call it quits. That's frightening, and we'll get into that in a moment. And last thing for News Bites under the category of this can't be good news is that China, Russia, and Iran are holding a maritime joint exercise today, according to public relations from Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Now that seems to be somewhat of a weird trinity. Let me say it again: Russia, China, and Iran. Well, let's take a look at the nuclear deal. What we referred to, and why this message from Biden is a little bit more frightening than comforting. Whether one wants to admit it or not, the new nuclear deal that the West is trying to carve out with Iran will actually speed up the process that leads to a new, much wider Middle East war. Iran is getting close to a nuclear breakout. It kind of reminds me of Chamberlain to Hitler, this sort of move or PR move that does very little in stopping Iran's nuclear weapons program and will in fact most likely give it a free path to them obtaining their goals. This alone is making not just Israel, but Iran's Sunni neighbors and Israel very anxious about the plans and intentions of the Western powers. This nuclear deal, rather than being a catalyst for peace, appears to be a trigger that will force Israel and its Sunni allies to launch a serious attack on Iran, forcing the radical Islamic Republic to what? Some kind of retaliation. And I think in no way that the Middle East has witnessed before. So, not good news. Couple things we've been reporting on in terms of COVID in Israel. We call it the unraveling. The real question in Israel today is what are Israel's leaders hiding? Why are they so quick to quiet any debate regarding vaccinations? We know that they're the country that Pfizer is using as a lab test for the entire world. And that's both Netanyahu as well as Bennett. But here's the bottom line. It ain't working. Just as many people are getting this COVID Omicron, just as many vaccinated people are getting it as unvaccinated people. So because of all of this and because of the pressure in Israel, the Green Pass, I got a feeling over the next week is going to be canceled. As we go on and we make our way through, we see that there's part of this unraveling is this decision in Israel, despite the spike numbers that we're seeing, despite we are hearing leaders calling doom and gloom and hospitals overrun. In the midst of all of this, Israel is continuing to reopen the country. Bottom line is what we're getting here at Holy Ground is that fully vaccinated, or, this is the big or, recovered people who haven't been in a red list country, and we're no longer a red list country here in America, in 14 days prior to arrival in Israel, here's what needs to be done. 1, you have to fill out a form, 48 hours of departure from Israel. 2, you have to submit a negative PCR taken within 72 hours of your departure. And 3, when you arrive in Israel, a PCR test must be taken, and you have to be isolated until the results of that test no more than 24 hours. This is big news. If you heard me right, if the way this is going down is that vaccinations are no longer required to enter Israel. Again, if everything is, if the world is falling apart because of this pandemic, why? And to be honest with you, what we're seeing in Omicron here in the States is something along the lines of about 3 to 4 to 5 days. And flu-like symptoms. That's really what we're seeing. And I think Israel's at the point now that they're saying we have to open the country back up, but current leadership must find a way to save face. So getting rid of the Green Pass. The Green Pass essentially means that you have to have this green passport in Israel to go to restaurants, any gatherings of any significant whatsoever, movies, malls, different things like that. And they're saying, why? It's just hurting business. It is not keeping people from the epidemic. So, big news. And we'll wait to see how that unrolls because, like I said, saving face is the most important thing for Naftali Bennett's government right now. Finally, last up, this is a must-watch video. I know this person, I've met this person, I've been on a tour with this person, Natsana Leitner. This is a very short video on YouTube. I've given you the link here, but in this short video, the most popular lies about Israel are debunked. The next time someone tells you that about these things that you're hearing, you'll know better how to answer. I'm starting to do this more because of the reports that we've been given over the last month or so about young evangelicals no longer understanding the need to support Israel, the growth of anti-Semitism that's going on not only in our country but around the world. It's important that these facts get out. So please take the time. It will take you no longer than 5 minutes. So with that, that's our report for this week. We're excited to see Israel reopening. It's the heart and soul of our ministry is to take people, to give them that experience of walking this land and meeting Jesus in a way that I believe is unique. I don't think you can have this experience with movies, videos, photos, but to walk that land, it gives you a sense of his presence that I found in no other place. And because of that, we want to offer it to you. So we're keeping our ear to the ground to see when everything is official, that's reopening 100%, and we'll form our 2022 tours around that information. So stay tuned. Again, information always on, we'll keep you updated on YouTube as well as our website, holygroundexplorations.com. And remember, Genesis 12:3 is still in effect. And remember, pray for the peace of Israel. Shabbat Shalom. This is Dan.